College fantasy football week 8 waiver wire. John, we are back here once again with another 9 players that are not rostered heavily in your fantasy football leagues. Oh, it's the meat of the season. Before we recorded, me and John were going through our leagues, seeing standings, seeing, those teams that need a big waiver wire pickup this week. Well, we got you here once again. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and as always, you can drop a comment, any start-sit questions you have. We're going to help you out. But if you were a Rookie Big Board patron, you would have heard us talk about Carlos Del Rio Wilson in last week's Plays of the Week video, which is available to our patrons. It's a second bonus episode each and every week. Link is in the episode description if you want to get that for this week. But, John, we're starting off the show. We're running hot here with Carlos Del Rio Wilson at a Marshall.
Hey, it's taken me a while to get used to saying his name also, my friend. And for the viewers, Matt kicked my butt in the CFF Kings Classic this weekend. So congratulations to Matt. I could have used Carlos Del Rio Wilson on that team. Matt beat me so badly. And we did feature the young man for our Patreon viewers. And he was written up in the honorable mention in the Fan Tracks column last week. But he wasn't featured. But Matt, there's just no denying this young man right now. Look at his last 3 games: 42.6, 36.2, and 42.4 fantasy points. I did a little research last week, Matt. He went to Florida, played there 1 season, transferred to Syracuse, suited up for the Orange for 3 years, but he couldn't really get on the field. And so he ended up transferring to Marshall, which is moving down from the Power 4 to the G5 level. And Matt, this young man is a dual threat star. He's still only on 12% of rosters. So you're looking at almost 90% availability. He has 150 fantasy points this year, and he's averaging over 30 per game. Go get him, everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Big play there at the quarterback position. We're going to stay here. I was going to say in the Sun Belt, but Jacksonville State's actually in CUSA. And I'm going to go with Caden Creel because he's taken over via the run game. So Creel took over as the starter 2 games ago for the Gamecocks, and he has 30 fantasy points a game in those 2 starts. He's available in 98% of leagues. He's completed 25 of 37 passing attempts, 270 passing yards, 1 touchdown. That's okay. That's fine. You're putting him in your lineup for those 57 rushing attempts in 2 games, 381 yards, and 3 touchdowns. This is a run-first offense, even with the quarterback. And with Caden Creel, you are getting some massive upside there. He gets Delaware next, then a bye, then Middle Tennessee State, then UTEP. It's a pretty juicy run there for Creel, John. A nice player who's flying well under the radar.
Oh, without question.
All right, let's get on here to our next guy. Another player. Here's a trend here. A guy who's taken over the starting position in Masion. Is it Heintschel?
Heintschel. It was such a great noon slate yesterday, my friends. The Alabama-Missouri game was a snot knocker, and the Pittsburgh going down to Florida State and essentially ending the Seminoles season, that was an amazing game. Last week, we featured Masion Heintschel in the written profiles on Fantrax. This week, we're putting him into our video show because this young man has showed me uncanny moxie for a freshman. Check out his profile that I wrote last week. He's still available on 85% of leagues. Matt, I can't believe that this dual threat quarterback, he scans the field like he's been playing college football for like 3 years. He looks through his progressions. He has a very strong arm, and he looks to throw before he runs, but he can run the football. He's got a 73% completion rate, man. I was a little shocked when I first heard they were benching Eli Holstein, but you know what? Pat Narduzzi and the coaching staff was watching this young man in practice, and they just couldn't take the challenges that, Holstein had anymore. And hey, he won 2 huge games for the Panthers.
Yeah, on to the running back position here. We have 2 running backs this week because we have a tight end. So that's your teaser here to hang on for the end of the video. But at running back, it's Jeffrey Pittman out of Southern Miss, and he's racking up the touchdowns over the last few weeks.
Absolutely. And another young man who's bounced around a little bit, Matt, and he's a little bit older, finally getting his chance to dominate. He had actually been the number 1 JUCO running back prospect back in 2022, and he ends up at Mississippi, but he doesn't really play much for the Rebels. He transfers last December to Southern Mississippi, and he's finally getting on the field and getting the touches. He has 3 straight games with over 20 fantasy points. And in the little hot streak, he has 259 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. He's available on 95% of teams, Matt. He's over 6 feet, over 200 pounds, playing at that G5 level. This is the type of young man who has success late.
And that Southern Miss offense is really clicking at this point, too. So,
oh, absolutely.
And next up here, our second running back of the week, we have King Miller. He's the next man up here in this USC offense. And John, unfortunately, as a Michigan fan, you got to see him up front and center this week.
Oh, yeah, I definitely saw him up front and center. And I'm heavily invested in Wayman Jordan. So I lost 2 games because Jordan got hurt, unfortunately. And it looks like Eli Sanders, he was also hurt. So we don't exactly know the status on Sanders yet. But I was really impressed with King Miller. Matt, he is a walk-on at the Trojans, and he really didn't do anything as a freshman last year. But he was 3rd on the depth chart, and he finally got his chance. He had a career-best 158 yards against the Wolverines. He knocked out 2 runs over 40 yards, and he scored on a 15-yard jaunt. We got to watch it all week. But if King Miller is going to be the starting running back for the Trojans, or maybe even earn, 55% of the snaps, you got to go get him. And I know I'm going to be in competition with Wayman Jordan owners because I need a back after losing Jordan. And I read that he's going to be out for at least 4 weeks, Jordan. So if you have Jordan, you got to go out and try to get Miller.
Yeah, absolutely crucial to keep up with those injuries at this point in the season. Onto the wide receiver position here. And we're chasing targets, as always, with CJ Williams, the wide receiver out of Stanford. He's available in 87% of leagues. Over the last 3 weeks, he's averaging 23 fantasy points per game. In every game against an FBS team this season, he's got at least 9 targets.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And even better, he's got 27 targets in the last 2 games, 100-plus receiving yards in each of the last 3 games. Stanford's got an average schedule the next few weeks, but I like to highlight that playoff run. Weeks 13 and 14, Stanford gets Cal, very beatable defense, and Notre Dame, which would normally sound like a tough defense, but has been a pretty porous pass defense this year. So CJ Williams, John, available in 87% of leagues, could be a league winner for you.
And, the game script is going to go against the Cardinal, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to be leading in games. So we're chasing targets all the time. The young man looks like a legitimate fantasy producer. And look, they're going to play in the ACC, and that's all FBS competition, everyone.
Absolutely. All right, on to Camden Brown, another player, John, who had been previously mentioned in our Plays of the Week video, still available in 70% of leagues, so we brought him out to the general population here. Go and get yourself some consistent performance from the Georgia Southern wide receiver.
And I was very lucky to get to watch that Georgia Southern and Southern Mississippi game, and Georgia Southern was down by 21 points, Matt. And Camden Brown, he is just a much bigger athlete than anyone else on the field that day. He's from Auburn. What happened is he saw the depth chart for the Tigers last winter, and it looked like he just wasn't going to get the chance to get on the field. So the young man decided to go to Georgia Southern. And this year, Matt, he's been unbelievable. 32 catches for 550 yards and 6 touchdowns. He has double-digit fantasy points in every game this year. Clay Helton loves to throw the football. Georgia Southern's in that Sun Belt Conference, and Camden Brown is just a superior athlete with size. The defensive backs, Matt, they look like they were 5'9", 5'10" against him. He just is a physically imposing playmaker.
Absolutely. Got one more wide receiver here. We're going back to the Marshall offense, and we got red hot Demarcus Lacy.
Well, we know if we have a hot quarterback, right, Matt? He's definitely throwing the ball to someone. And Demarcus Lacy, woo, he's available on 90% of leagues right now. He has 99 fantasy points for the year. He's averaging 16 and a half. He has 28 catches for 396 yards and 4 touchdowns. And it is not a coincidence that his rise over the last 3 games coincides with Carlos Del Rio Wilson's. He's scored 26.8, 37.7, and 27.5 in those last 3 games. You could do much worse than Demarcus Lacy in a flex position down the stretch here.
Absolutely. And we got a tight end. Like I teased earlier here, he is rostered in 51% of leagues. But I'd say for a good tight end, we can go high in the rostership because after this last week, I think that he's going to be rostered in 85% plus. And that's Brett Norfleet out of Mizzou, the tight end. He caught a touchdown against Alabama this past week. He has caught 9 out of 10 targets over the last 2 weeks. He's got 4 touchdowns on the season, but 1 in each of his last 2 games. He's averaging 12.4 fantasy points per game, which is a really healthy number for your tight end. He gets Auburn next. That's a beatable pass defense. He gets Vandy after that. That's a beatable pass defense. Listen, if you need a tight end, it could be really tough at this point. So going out and getting Brett Norfleet, that could be a difference maker for you in getting a win. And that, college fantasy football season is short, man. Every single week matters. And if Norfleet can swing a game for you, that's a big difference maker in that championship pursuit. But that's what we're all about, John. We're helping folks win their CFF championships. We love those comments every week that say, we're helping you get those wins. We love those. Give us a like. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And we're going to be back next week. But in the meantime, we are on to those week 8 victories.